Hello, fellow fibromyalgia warriors, friends, supporters, people that I'm already appreciative for your love and support, even if I've not met you. Welcome to this channel. Okay, so you might be thinking, wow, she seems like really way up there. And I am, and I am feeling so full of energy. Okay, let me roll it back just a minute and let you guys know that this morning, like literally I just got back a few minutes ago, I went to the gym and worked out for the first time in over 9 years. Okay, for me, so I was so reduced in my mobility following my spinal disc injury 9.5 years ago, and then that triggering fibromyalgia and chronic pain and inflammation. I could not work out. I could not exercise. I could barely move. And I, at one point, had to use a pair of crutches around the house. I couldn't go anywhere at all for any amount of distance without crutches or my wheelchair. And if I wanted independence, well, that's why I ended up getting an electric one as well. And slowly over the past 3 years, God has been healing my body as I've learned to eat in a way that I personally think is His plan for all of us as human beings, which is, for me, 99.9% of what I consume is animal meat, so the skeletal muscle meat of an animal, and the fat that it comes with, some butter, eggs, and occasionally a cappuccino, but I ask them to make it with whole milk. No sugars, no sweeteners, nothing else, no other plants of any kind. That's what I've been doing for the last 3 and a bit years. And it has allowed me to get rid of all my inflammation. It has allowed me to reverse all the symptoms of fibromyalgia. I think technically I may always be clinically diagnosed as having it, but for me it's in remission. It's not that it's gone. So like if I overdo it, if I twist the wrong way, if I try to lift something that's far too heavy, I'll feel it in my body. So it's not as though it's gone completely, but it is in remission, and that it might be there, but it's not causing me any issues at the moment. Okay. So going from somebody who could barely move from bed to the sofa for almost 9 years, who couldn't go any place without being pushed in a wheelchair, being helped with crutches. At one point, there was a period of 1.5 years where I had a care worker come into our home every morning, Monday through Friday, because my husband was out on the road for his work, and she would have to come in and help me to wash my hair, to get dry, to get dressed, to get whatever I might need for the day settled in my seat in the lounge or the living room. I needed a care person to come in and help me every single day. My muscles, of course, were not being used or very minimally, so they, of course, have begun to atrophy. My coordination was off. My balance was off. In fact, my balance was bad enough that I had a couple of situations a few years back where I just fell over. My balance just left. It went. I didn't go numb. I just fell over and landed hard on my side or hurt my knee or whatever. Okay. And all of those things worked together. And of course, since going first keto for about a month, and then quickly, actually not even, a couple of weeks of keto, 2, maybe 3 weeks keto, and then I quickly transitioned into carnivore because I am somebody who does not do well with consuming any sort of plant. as far as chewing and trying to digest a plant. As soon as I went carnivore, my IBS symptoms eased up as far as food triggers. Now, anxiety was still a factor, and therefore they were still there at times, which is a whole other thing. But as far as the foods I was eating, the food triggers were gone. I started to sleep better. I had a clear mind. My fibromyalgia brain fog was completely removed. But it took me another 3 years to realize that actually the pain that I was constantly feeling through my body, not that the pain was made up. I wasn't pretending to have pain. The pain was real, but it was being caused by false information going back and forth between my body and my brain. And some of that was because there was still some inflammation there. But also I think because I was so used to, there's this saying we use about mind over matter. And if we put our minds to something, we can actually see it happen and come to fruition. Now, I would say we can do that, yes, with the proviso that we realize it's God allowing it to happen, right? It's God's will up until the point something becomes about our choices. You know what I mean? So could I get better? Yes. Does God want me to get better? Of course he does. He wants me to live a rich and full and healthy, happy life for as long as possible, to help as many people as possible, to make a difference in my life and the life of others as positively as I can. Absolutely, that's his desire for each of us, to be his son or daughter spiritually, and to share that love and gift with the world. That is his desire. End of. Okay, so that's the point. But how we get there and how long it takes us will be dependent on each of us as individuals, because we have our own paths to walk as far as our own personal journeys. But ultimately, that's what God wants. So he wants me to be healthy and happy and healed. He's already revealed to me that the first key to that is eating the sort of diet that humans are supposed to eat, animal-based. Now, there are some people out there who can tolerate, a few handfuls of berries here and there, and maybe some vegetables. And if they're okay with that and they thrive on it, amazing, and aren't they lucky? I love fruit, I love vegetables. However, neither of those things like me back, which is why I don't consume them. IBS, I do not consume seeds, nuts, grains, cereals, none of it. There are some people who seem to do okay, at least for a while, with eating those things, and it's up to them. It's their free choice. They can eat what they want. They may end up with consequences later, bloating, gas, leaky gut, potentially. But you know what? If they want to, I don't say this to say, oh, you're horrible because you eat those things. If that works for them, fantastic. It doesn't work for me. So that's just a sidebar, and I apologize. I'm doing it again. I'm full of excitement and energy because, going back to the initial point, I was not able to do any exercise for almost 9 years because I was so inflamed, and there was such a flood of false pain signals going to my brain and from my brain constantly, that I simply couldn't. It hurt too much. And I was so afraid that if I tried to move at all, I was going to hurt myself. If I tried to do anything different, I was going to get re-injured. If I was going to even walk a little, it was going to be bad for me. Now, it didn't help that I was hunched over. I had horrible posture. Always have had. Although I've been actively working on that for the past few months specifically. But I've always had horrible posture. I've always stood in a way where I've got, and most of us do, we have, I think they call it your pelvic You have an anterior tilt to your pelvic bone, which means when you stand in a way that your butt sticks out, your pelvis tilts to the anterior, to the back, which means we have a big curve in our lower back and our spines aren't straight. And that's just a recipe for disaster, for injury, for chronic pain. You're putting all that stress and all of the weight of everything you do every day on your sacroiliac joint and the sacrum area, which is the bit between the end of your lower spine and where the pelvic bone is. So that's what takes the majority of the weight of our bodies. When we sit, when we walk, when we sleep, when we run, when we swim, whatever we're doing or not doing, that's where the stress of our weight is carried. So I was so afraid that I was going to cause more damage by exercising that I was too afraid to try. And I had this thing. Even if I was able to go out and walk, like I've shared in other videos, I did for me a fair bit of walking on my holidays in Canada. I did a bit more walking when we got home. Like, hey, I did 2 miles today, which in the big scheme of things, not that huge a distance. A big deal for me because I haven't moved a lot in 9 years. But then I would feel so sore and so exhausted. It's like my back wasn't bothering me, but I had no get up and go. And it would be 2, 3, 4 days before I had the desire to get up and walk anywhere again. And what I realized was, one, I was afraid. I was being afraid. I wasn't trusting that the body that God made would be able to do what it was meant to do if I allowed it to function properly. In other words, if I practice standing up straight, walking straight, without an arch in my back, without, poor posture, and without, and certainly in proper shoes, trainers, running shoes, as you guys might call them where you are. Wearing proper trainers, not cheapo, shoes that you slip on. Proper trainers with insoles and support and padding. Why? Because we need that when we walk, so that we don't put too much strain on our lower backs or through our feet. So I have these really nice Puma trainers. I got them last year. I got them because I like them because they're pink and white. But actually they've got foam inserts and they're properly padded. So if I was ever to say want to take up running, not that I have any plans to do that, I think that'd be too hard on my poor knees, but just walking in them is like walking on a cushion. And it takes some of the pressure off my lower back as well as my heels. You don't want to get heel spurs or other injuries. So I realized, first of all, if I'm going out, put on proper trainers, not flip-flops or sandals, which I'd done in the past. Or I wore a lot of wedge heels and high heels. Also really bad for your posture because it forces you as a woman to walk where you're tipped forward and your butt's sticking out. And that's so bad for your posture and your lower back. So I don't wear those kinds of shoes anymore. Just a side point. But I watched a bunch of videos this past week by Dr. Sarah Zaldivar, who's amazing. And if you guys have not subscribed yet, you definitely should. She's great. She's really good to watch. Her videos are usually fairly short. Some of them are a bit longer, but most of them are just quick little, here's what she's doing. She's got a PhD in exercise physiology and nutrition science. Okay? She knows what she's talking about. She's been in the carnivore space for a while, but what I like from her is her little tidbits and tips on exercise. And remembering that, whether you've been working out at the gym for years, but you're not getting anywhere and you need to change up what you're doing, or you've gone from zero exercise like me, where you've got muscles that are starting to atrophy, so therefore they get exhausted easily, they get crampy easily, and it makes you feel like I'm done, I don't want to keep going. Well, she has some really cool videos about the positive effects of dopamine. And basically, I felt amazing. So the gym, where my husband goes already, is down the bottom of a fairly steep hill from our house. It's probably almost, it's between, I think it's between half a mile and a mile's walk downhill initially to get there. So downhill's fine, but it's got quite a steep incline, kind of incline like that, right? Coming back up. But I did 10 minutes of fairly moderate speed walking. I wasn't going to push myself too far the first time out, on the treadmill. And I worked the ab crunch machine, and I did some chest presses, and I actually used the leg machines. So not every single one, because it was kind of busy there today, but I used the ones that I've used before that I knew how to use. And you know what? They were all set on the lowest weight settings. Let me just say that. I didn't go in crazy and go, I got to start at like 30 kilos. No, I have not been in a gym in 9 years. I've only just started to get some regular walking into my life within the past month or so. So I don't want to overdo it, tear anything, like pull any muscles, hurt myself, and then never go back. That's not what I want, right? But so what? So I started at like 9 or 10 kilos. For me, coming from nothing and not only being not able to move and exercise for almost 9 years, but being locked in this fear somehow that I would be right back where I started because, I'm going to hurt myself, it's going to go badly, and what if I can't do what everyone else does, blah, blah, blah. All these fears that I had to surrender, I had to pray about before God, trust He would look after me as He's been healing me already, and I went for it. And it was great. Everyone there was just doing their thing, couple of smoke, it wasn't a chit-chatty thing. I went in with my music and my phone, and everyone was doing their own thing, but everyone was friendly enough, and it was great. I'm not ready. I didn't start with any barbells or free weights. I went to the weight machines because I realized I got to start slow. I want to build up to that level, but I'm not there yet, and that's okay. But I felt so amazed and so full of energy afterwards. I totally want to go every day. I think I'm going to have a hard time making myself take a rest day or a slower day. But it was fantastic. I did the leg machines, the leg curls, where you put your feet underneath and push them up, and you lay on your front and then you curl up the back way. The ones where you do the scissors things, whatever they're called, where you do your inner and outer thigh workouts. I did some chest presses. Like I said, I did quite a bit of stuff on the ab machine, some crunches with the machine. So that way your posture is forced to be good. And I felt fantastic. And maybe in a grand total, I was there for maybe 35, 40 minutes. But then I had a really good, almost 10-minute walk home. And it was all uphill. And it was that type of incline. That kind of incline. So I got extra work on the back of my leg muscles and my glutes. And it felt incredible. High dopamine levels. I felt fantastic. From being in a wheelchair, guys, and full of unbelievable pain, to I'm here. I want to do more. I want to build muscle. I want to get a strong core because I want to not just build muscle, but maintain muscle mass. I want to have better, stronger bone density. I don't want to be facing osteoporosis in my life. And the only way to avoid that is by doing some sort of weight training, whether you're doing like barbells and the powerlifting stuff, or you're using the resistance through a weight machine, whatever it is, all of that helps. And I had to share this with you guys because for me, this is another mini miracle. I never, ever, ever once thought in my whole time of having been injured and having fibromyalgia and all this pain, I never thought ever that I would ever get back to the gym. Ever. I thought maybe I'll slowly do a little bit of walking every 2 or 3 days. And then maybe I'll eventually work up to walking through town, pushing myself a little bit more. But what I realized is it's incredible that how much more capable of things I was than I ever thought I could be when I stepped back and stopped trying to do it based on what I could visualize and what I could see happening, and I surrendered it to God. And that's the main thing. Yes, I'm the one moving my body physically, doing the presses and the leg lifts and all of that. Yes, I am the one in my mind sending the signals for my muscles to do certain things and my body to move a certain way. Yes. However, I can only do that because God is so amazing. He made the human body to function that way. How incredible. So, I will keep you guys updated. Also, before I forget, also wanted to say that I have completed the first part of my course. I'm doing a level 5 in nutrition for coaching. I've completed all the theory work for my level 3. I submit that next week, or actually later this week. And I'm starting to work through level 4, which is all about nutrition for sport. And then I move on to level 5, which is just general nutrition and advice for kids, for families, for older people, etc., etc. Now, I will say a lot of the advice that is there is not correct. But sometimes you gotta go and change things from the inside out. So things that say how you have to have carbohydrates in order to perform, no, not true. The body makes all the glucose it requires, or it can, by metabolizing the fat in our adipose tissue, whether it's the form of triglycerides or other fatty acids. Those can be converted into glucose through gluconeogenesis for the brain, but also for energy. So we do not require any amount of carbohydrates ever, even if we're elite athletes. I would say, as one proviso, if, for example, you are very athletic, whether you compete or you simply like to work out regularly, and you are doing this with carbs, give yourself a chance to become fat adapted before you go back to the same level of intensity. Because otherwise, you are going to feel those effects. If you just cut out carbs and then the next day try to do what you would normally do for training or competition, you are going to feel the what we call the keto flu. You are going to feel the withdrawal symptoms from carbs, and your performance is not going to be what you would want for that reason. Give yourself a chance to become fat adapted, and you'll find that the fuel that you have in your body will last far longer and will be much more efficient than anything that comes from dietary glucose. Just a little heads up there. Because our fat, I think one fat cell, okay, can be used, one fat molecule can be used to make up to 200 ATP molecules for energy, versus glucose, which can be eventually converted into one glucose molecule can only be converted into 38 ATP molecules for energy. So, and they run out quickly. Glucose burns through quickly, whereas fat lasts longer as an energy source. And we've all got plenty on board. So, that's something to think about too. Anyways, sorry guys, that was me becoming a little bit educational there on you. Sorry for that. I hope you guys are doing really well. It is a holiday weekend here in the UK, a bank holiday weekend, which means, although it's Monday today, unless you work retail, everyone's off. It's a day off for everybody, which is really nice. And I know Labor Day is next weekend. The long weekend for North America is next weekend. So whatever you get up to, enjoy. And I'll share with you guys how things are going with my exercising, with getting to the gym, with just building muscle, feeling stronger as I go. But I had to share with you guys how I feel because it's incredible. Like, I was wheelchair bound, and at one point I was housebound because I could not self-propel a wheelchair. I was stuck at home day after day doing nothing because I was in too much agony. I was in too much pain. I was too inflamed. I was too full of these sensors and signals coming out from my brain telling me that everything hurt to move or do anything. But I walked almost 2 miles there and back, uphill, okay, not both ways, but, down a fairly steep hill and then hiked back up that hill to get home after working out at the gym. That's, to me, a miracle. And you guys don't have to go to a gym. Even if you just get up and walk or move, it's all good. It all helps. It's all amazing. And the endorphins are incredible. The energy is absolutely there. I can't wait to do this again tomorrow. So I will keep you guys posted. Sorry, I didn't have anything before now, but as it turns out, this was why I had to wait for this moment of getting to the gym, because that is truly miraculous in my life. Thank you guys so much for all your support, all of your love, all of your concern. If you have any questions or you have any comments, I'd love to hear them, as always. And I will say, as I always do, that, you know what? God is the healer. He truly is. He is the physician. Meat and eggs and other animal products like butter and maybe cheese. Okay, well, maybe not. Meat, eggs, butter, that's the medicine. And it's incredible. Love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. Sorry for how long it lasted. I will have more content soon. I promise. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye for now.